Triangle to Win is on Patreon. Follow the link you see on the screen to find out how to support the show. This is Triangle to Win, a gaming podcast with a focus on all things PlayStation RPGs, a veritable match made in heaven. The aforementioned combo has given us historic games such as Final Fantasy VII and my personal favorite, Kingdom Hearts. I am your host, Karlobster, and it's time to press Triangle to Win. Hello. It is I, Karlobster, and you are watching Triangle to Win. Watching, listening, ingesting, I don't know. But yeah, welcome to Triangle to Win, episode 7. I don't know what I was trying to do there. But I'm recording this at a different time. You know what? There's something I kind of am not sure about. I feel like I missed 1 week. God damn it. I feel like I missed 1 week. I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't reviewed, but I just realized this right before recording and looking at the dates that I feel like I should have recorded this 1 week ago. And if that's true, then for that, I'm sorry. I completely did not even realize that I missed a week. I feel like I missed a week, but I'm still not sure at the moment of this recording. Because should I check right now? I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, if I did miss a week, then I'm sorry. However, all I have to say is that there's a bunch of cool new news that happened in the past few days that I think by me missing last week, I'm not trying to excuse it, but we get a more beefy kind of episode today. But yeah, welcome to Triangle to Win. A biweekly PlayStation podcast, as said earlier, focused on PlayStation news and RPGs and everything in between and out-tween or something, I don't know. But yeah, it's a different kind of recording situation today. I'm recording this more in the afternoon. It's currently 12 p.m., so it's a bit different. And I think my schedule, I'm trying to remember what happened last week. Why wasn't I able to do it? I really thought that, oh yeah, I traveled somewhere for 5 days and I wasn't able to do any work, even my own work and anything else related to my work. Haven't done it because I was basically kind of quote unquote off the grid. Didn't even have my laptop. I had my phone, sure, but nothing else. So I couldn't really be in the place to record. However, it feels like that week is kind of lost to me. Feels like I skipped a week, but really, a week did go by. I just wasn't doing anything, which is why I feel like nothing happened. Which is why I feel like I skipped a week. But yeah. Temporal problems aside, I am back, and I feel like for these next few weeks or so, my schedule is definitely gonna be a bit lighter. I think I hope that there isn't any more weird things that'll take me away for a long time from this and my own like work and stuff. I don't think so. Maybe one here and there, a day or so, but not like 5 days until maybe next month or something. But yeah, it's just a personal thing, not really anything to talk about. Not really. I don't really need to talk about it here, but just know that I am back. I'm quite sorry for missing a week, but like I said, this week's episode is pretty cool. But yeah, Triangle to Win. This podcast that you're listening to, you can support it directly through Patreon. Patreon.com/triangle to win. There are 2 tiers at the moment. Tier 1 is more like a support tier. You just want to be there, right? And just here's $1. You know, here's a cup of coffee per month, just 1 cup. Now imagine if there are 30 people at the $1 tier, then that's like 30 cups of coffee per month. So that's 1 coffee a day. Now, if there are more people in the $5 tier, which is the second tier, then that makes it, let's say there are 30 tier 1s and like 30 tier 2s. Then that'll make it like 180 cups of coffee per week. And that's too much. I think that's scientifically, medically too much to drink in a week. But yeah, 2 tiers. Tier 2 gets you early access to these episodes. What usually happens is I do my notes on Fridays, and then I record on Sundays, which it currently is, and then I release it on Patreon early on Tuesday, and then for the rest of the world, it goes up on Friday. So there's like a whole week in between, and this is just, it just makes more sense for, to fit into my other work. This isn't my whole thing as of the moment. So yeah. So you get the Patreon, the audio only 3 days earlier, and then for the video, you get it on Fridays. This is Fridays Philippine time. Maybe JST, maybe Japan time is more familiar to you. SEA time, Singapore time, something like that. So this is Fridays SEA time, and that's where everything is released to the public and that. However, there's really something, I think I talked about this before, but I'm really trying to figure out a situation with my clips. And honestly, I think I'm just going to go ahead and clip this podcast myself. They're going to be a bit simpler clips than I initially wanted to make. However, I just wanted to see if I can like just do simple ones that can get into the algorithm, hopefully, and then we can promote the podcast a bit more. Not that I really need to promote the podcast so much. I'm honestly just doing this for my own like satisfaction. But more eyes would be cool. And it's just clips are easy, so to speak. Especially if I'm gonna make them simply. And you know what kind of made me think about this of just doing them on my own is this thought that out there are a lot of content creators that automate their YouTube shorts and TikTok uploads. Because I was going around and finding strategies and tips in making YouTube shorts and TikToks and stuff like that. Unfortunately, these types of videos came upon my timeline wherein people are actually just using YouTube and TikTok automation to kind of like get like daily uploads on their YouTube channels, and they're using AI to generate scripts and ideas, right? They're using AI to generate the ideas, AI to generate the scripts, AI to make the videos itself, and then they're using automation to have it uploaded on YouTube every single day. So this is quite literally slop, the sloppiest of the slop on the internet. These are those AI generated videos that you see that don't make sense, or have like a video of a ocean out there, and they're getting like tens of thousands of millions of views because they just AI upon AI upon AI upon AI. And it's annoying, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my own clips. I'm just gonna cut them myself. And if this AI can just do like freaking simple clips and stuff like that and have it uploaded and people are like, ooh, this is riveting, then surely a human edited clip could be possibly more riveting? I don't know. It still depends, but come on, right? Support human voices and not the friggin', Grand Theft Auto 6 released on YouTube. Whatever. But yeah, a little AI tangent there. It's quite annoying. So yeah, that's the headspace I'm in, which is why I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna let these AI bots like beat me. Let's just do them. I'm just gonna do them myself. But yeah. Also, another thing that's happening this week is quite annoying. I'm actually having a hard time right now, is that I ordered a new chair because the chair that I had before apparently had an issue, or is now currently broken in a way, wherein, so these office chairs, it's an office chair that was pretty expensive for Philippine prices. I think it cost like 10K, something like 10K-ish. It had this issue where the middle thing underneath the chair, the kind of the gas pump, whatever thing going on, the gas cylinder in the middle, has gotten this issue where it protrudes downwards more than it's supposed to protrude. Maybe because, wear and tear. After long days and hours of use, it just went lower and lower and lower, into the middle of the frame where the wheels are connected, kind of the spider pattern underneath the chair. So the middle part kind of protruded lower and lower and lower, and it protruded so low to the point that it now hits the ground. And that's quite annoying because recently I've been trying to dabble in more VR stuff and more full body tracking stuff as well. I have a Mocha P and a VR setup using my PSVR 2 and a bunch of things, controllers, whatever, all of that stuff, all that crap. Now, when I do VR stuff and all that full body stuff, I want to move the chair around away from the PC so it's not in the way, when I do the VR stuff. However, since the middle cylinder is touching the damn ground, and the ground as to which it's touching is currently covered by a carpet, so whenever I move my chair, it catches onto the carpet and thus moves my carpet and just destroys whatever setup I have on the floor. It just catches on as well, and it's annoying to move because, there's a resistance. And it's just overall 10 out of 10, annoying, and it drives me insane. Now, the next step that you're probably thinking is maybe just remove the carpet. And you know what? Yeah, I did that. I removed the carpet. And when I removed the carpet, the thing in the middle, the cylinder, was just grinding on the floor. And it was scratching the tile floor that I have here. And that's just not, I just can't keep it that way, And now I search for fixes. However, these fixes require me to be some kind of friggin' engineer or something. I have no idea how to do these fixes. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm like a nerd who knows how to fix my PC and whatever's going wrong with my PC, sure. But fixing physical things like chairs and gas cylinders and gas pumps, that's completely out of my wheelhouse. I mean, I don't even have the tools for it. So that's quite annoying. So I looked for a chair, and I've been looking for a few days, and I saw this chair that looked good, right? The chair that I found was a mesh back and mesh bottom chair, the place where you sit in. Because one of the things I didn't like about my previous chairs, the first one I had probably 15 years ago, was a gaming chair, was a DX Racer. I think that was super popular way back when. And that was very sweaty, it's covered by pleather. And every time I finish a session of gaming or like doing whatever content creation, it's swampy and sweaty. It's annoying, because I live in the Philippines. It doesn't matter. It's just going to be sweaty, right? And I changed it to a office chair, right? And the office chair was actually pretty good, except for the fact it also has a cushion like bottom, which makes it pretty hot as well. And of course, which I told you earlier, the middle thing kind of lowered down into the ground and is now currently broken and annoying to use. But it was a pretty good chair in terms of like the adjustments that you can make. So aside from the reclining thing, you can even move the chair either forward or backward. You can decrease you can increase the resistance as to when you recline. It's different levels of reclining. The lumbar area has different levels as well. And overall, it's just pretty good. You can lock the reclining mechanism as well. It was really good with its features. Unfortunately, it's now broken, and also it's annoying. So for this new chair, the most annoying thing about this office chair that I had before was it's super heavy. Really heavy. So whenever it catches onto the carpet, I need to actually like physically lift it up off the ground and then place it somewhere else. And it was very heavy. I cannot keep doing that. And the danger always is that if you lift it, there's a danger that when you put it down, you kind of put it down on your foot, and that hurts. So the criteria I had for a new chair was a mesh bottom, so it's cold, right? a chair that's a bit simpler than the previous chair. So I was like, I don't really need all these settings anyway. I just set it up once and then I forgot about the setup. Also a little bit lighter. And so I looked on Shopee and saw a bunch of chairs and all of them looked the same. All of them just look the same with like different branding. It feels like they all just came from the same warehouse and just had like different brands printed on their like on the side or something. Let me just drink some water. And then I found this chair, which was simple enough. It was very simple, actually. It had a mesh bottom, and I was like, you know what? In terms of the thing going down, I wanted to see what the weight capacity is. And the weight capacity is 300 kilograms. I'm like, okay, well, 300 kilograms, I doubt there's even a single person within a 20-mile radius that weighs more than 300 kilograms here. So that's fine, right? Sure, let's do it. And then it didn't really have any bells and whistles. It's just a mesh chair. I don't think it even reclines like lounge-wise, like a super loungy chair. It's not. It's just a lock-in office chair. And so I got it. And now it's here. And I regret it. It cost me like 3,000 pesos. Remember, the previous one is 10,000. And this one is 3,000. And so pros, it's cold. You know, it's not swampy. It's nice because it's all mesh. And, you know, in that regard, it's perfect. Great chair. It's very cold. The problem is the quality of everything else. You know? For example, I told you no bells and whistles, just the ability to recline and put it up and down. You know, make it higher and make it smaller. Because there's no other bells and whistles, there's no like ability to push the seat to the front or to the back to change the lumbar settings or everything else. It feels pretty awful. Like, I wish I could have moved the seat a bit further forward. If it was a bit further forward, it would have been a bit better. However, it's a bit too short. You know, it's a bit too short in that regard. Also, I can barely feel the lumbar support. I think the lumbar support is misplaced. I think it's a bit too high. It's not even lumbar anymore. It's like, it's just thoracic support, which I definitely don't need. And of course, the thoracic vertebra is by nature kyphotic rather than lordotic. Kyphotic meaning it's curved. You know, the curve is towards the back rather than towards the front, which the lumbar and the cervical spine are. So that sucks. And then it's also a bit narrow. It's so narrow that the middle of my butt, you know, the tailbone area, and also the mesh itself is not very taut. It's a bit looser than I want, right? So because the middle like mesh is loose, when I sit down, it kind of makes a deeper depression than I expected, meaning the tailbone goes lower into the chair. However, because the chair is also a bit narrow, right? The right and left thigh remains upwards because it's sitting on the kind of plasticky like frame of it. So you can imagine the tailbone is low and the thighs are higher. It's forming some sort of V shape, which hurts. I'm sitting on it right now. It hurts for long periods of time. So I regret it. However, I already bought it. And you know, one of the mentality things in the Philippines is that if it's not broken, don't replace it. Right? Even if it's essential for you to replace it, you shouldn't because it's not broken yet. We also have this thing with shoes, right? These days, people just buy like, I'm going to buy a shoe today. And then 1 month later, I'm going to buy another shoe because it's cool. And then 1 year later, I'm going to buy another pair of shoes because there's a new limited edition one that's coming out. And it's a different colorway. It's pretty cool. And then they're going to buy more shoes. Shoes upon shoes. And then you get a cabinet full of shoes. But I wasn't kind of raised that way. I wasn't raised that way. For me, it was more like, okay, we're going to buy you shoes, right? Use it until it's broken. Use it until you can't use it anymore. And when it's broken, that's when you buy a new pair of shoes. And that's why currently I only have 2 pairs of shoes. Because, and funny enough, the one of those pairs of shoes I only bought because my first pair of shoes kind of, opened up in the bottom. So I had to buy one immediately or else I'll have no shoes to wear. So I got those shoes and I have 1 more pair of shoes, just for safety. 2 pairs of shoes in my life right now. And I'm not going to be buying a new pair of shoes until it's broken. Until one of them is broken. Or maybe until both of them are broken, So that just applies to everything that I have, including this chair and, other stuff. And it's quite annoying, but oh well. My other solution is if I could have someone else use this chair. I could charitably donate this to someone I know and be like, oh, you need a chair? This is a cool one, right? If they're not super particular with their chairs, maybe they don't even use it as much as I do. I can give it to them so I can be like, yeah, I don't have a chair anymore. I'm going to buy a more expensive one. So crap. So I'm currently looking for an expensive chair and looking for somebody to get this chair. Now, should I sell it? Yes, I probably should, but selling is quite annoying because I need to talk to people. And it's annoying to have them test it. What? Do they go to my house and test it? I don't want to at all. Do I go to their house so they can test it there? I don't want to bring it anywhere. It's a bit heavy. It's not as heavy as the previous one, but it's still gonna take space in the car and everything. And it's just a big hassle because it's a big item. So, yes, currently I'm suffering. Hopefully it doesn't show. So, Triangle Twin podcast, we have a bunch of news articles today. Actually, very few. To be honest, we only have a few articles, but they're very, very juicy. The news this week, these past 2 weeks are very, very interesting. Some disappointing, some worthy of praise and admiration and celebration, but some just absolutely horrid. So let's get into it. Okay? First off, Grand Theft Auto 6 release date has been announced, but the game has been delayed to 2026. This is via Video Games Chronicle. The game will now be released next year, Rockstar says. The game will now be released May 26, 2026. So the Rockstar Games put out a letter or a tweet, black background with white text. Grand Theft Auto 6 is now set to release on May 26, 2026. We are very sorry that this is later than you expected. The interest and excitement surrounding a new Grand Theft Auto has been truly humbling for our entire team. We want to thank you for your support and your patience as we work to finish the game. With every game we have released, the goal has always been to try and exceed your expectations, and Grand Theft Auto 6 is no exception. We hope you understand that we need this extra time to deliver at the level of quality you expect and deserve. So, that's the message that Rockstar has for us for delaying Grand Theft Auto 6, which was supposed to release no, there wasn't a firm release date, but they did say it was going to release 2025, right? But now they moved it to May 2026 and that's with a solid release date as well. So that's pretty interesting. So May, that's first quarter-ish for first half of the year. Interesting. So yeah. And after this, a day after, they released a trailer for GTA 6 as sort of a we're sorry. So here's a trailer. And honestly, the trailer, one of the best looking games I've ever seen in my life. Maybe the best game I've ever seen that's set in the real world-ish. Kind of real world with a real world aesthetic. It might be the best game that looks like that. Holy crap. And I was thinking, okay, so that's PC. That's the PC version. And then I realized this pretty late that no, GTA actually releases on consoles first. And then PC, like, down the line. And that's been a thing for GTA 5. And of course for GTA 4, I believe. And of course for GTA 3, you know. They come to consoles first. So I was like, oh, okay. So what console is this being shot on or being rendered on? I was like, this is probably PS5 Pro, right? And then a few hours later or something, they released a tweet that said everything in this trailer was captured. I think they said something like, this trailer has equal amounts of gameplay and cinematics captured on the base PlayStation 5. I was like, whoa, okay. So this friggin' amazing looking game that we're looking at is captured on the base PS5? And, well, they tweeted it. And I would assume that you wouldn't tweet that if it isn't true. There would be no use for them to lie. They could quite easily just say it's on PS5 Pro, right? Because understandable that, you know, a game that looks as good as this is going to be on the best hardware out there. But no, they really doubled down and said that this game is running and captured. You know, this trailer was captured on the PS5, and it doesn't and they even said that it's not just cinematics, but also gameplay in there. Now, gameplay, you know, when people say gameplay, I'm expecting over-the-shoulder guns shooting, right? HUD. You see the ammo counter, the HP or whatever, all of that stuff, right? But I think what they're saying here, gameplay, is that a lot of these scenes are captured, quote unquote, in real time, like captured in game where it was playing in real time. That's what I believe they're trying to say. They are cinematics. Most of these are cinematics. I mean, all of these are cinematics. Maybe there are some shots there, for example, when the guy was talking to someone and then suddenly the camera moved to a third person, over the shoulder perspective as he enters a door. That, I believe, is gameplay or is transitioning into gameplay. But the rest of it is more cinematics and stuff like that. But you know, the thing about GTA cinematics is that they're pretty much done in real time. They don't have like a separate render, you know, that they play. Like, for example, in Final Fantasy. You know how in Final Fantasy, in pretty much any of the 3D Final Fantasy games, right? The in-game graphics are quite different from the CG cutscenes that they have. So you play the game, and you know, it looks like a video game and stuff like that. And when there are cutscenes where it is a video game, looking video game, right? But then suddenly they transition to these scenes where suddenly the quality and fidelity is just boosted by a lot because it's all rendered, you know? All that detail is rendered already. So it's basically akin to playing a video sometimes with, for example, Final Fantasy games. And not just Final Fantasy games, but a lot of games as well. They just use rendered cutscenes for the cutscenes. Now, for Rockstar games, for GTA, they have this technology, or they have this direction, so to speak, to have a lot of their cutscenes instead be actually playing in real time in the game. So much so that, for example, if you are able to do something cool or if the requirements are right, you can have, like, you know, the characters are talking to each other. And, you know, it's using cinematic camera angles and stuff like that. But for example, if you are able to time a car to crash into these characters as they're talking to each other, that can happen because everything is happening in real time, meaning the world exists around the cutscene in real time. So if somebody, would drive a car in there into the cutscene, you will see the car, and the car will actually bump into the characters, and the characters will react to bumping. Will react to the physics collision of it. It'll be super glitchy, right? Because because in that moment, their only programming is to continue the cutscene. So you can bump into them. They're still gonna talk as if they're, as if they're in the cutscene, right? So that's what I meant by them having real-time cutscenes. And I believe that's what they were referring to when they said there's gameplay in this trailer. That 50% of these scenes that you see are basically like real-time cutscenes, right? So you can imagine like maybe a car just ramming into these characters while these scenes are happening, unscripted, right? So that's pretty cool, but if you saw the trailer, this trailer is insane. I think it got like 500 million views within 24 hours. That's that's absolutely crazy. Everybody is waiting for this game. Everybody, even the people who don't look forward to GTA, are just looking at this game in some capacity because this is going to be the game of the decade for sure. This is going to be the game of the console generation, the console cycle, or whatever it is. But here's the thing. Why did they go through the trouble of saying it's on PS5? And that's one of the things people were thinking about leading into this. People were wondering who the heck amongst Xbox and PlayStation are going to get the marketing rights, so to speak, right? People are quick to decide it's going to be PlayStation because, it's the kind of quote unquote winning console, right? Of course, they want to advertise themselves with the winning console, so to speak. However, this is also GTA and Rockstar we're talking about. They honestly can do not anything they want. They can be like, yeah, whatever. We're not gonna side with any of you. We're just gonna release our own stuff. There's no need to side with all of you. But of course, if, for example, if PlayStation is like, yeah, we're gonna give you like, here's money. We're gonna take away a bunch of your marketing expenses so that we get the marketing rights for it, then I wouldn't see Rockstar. And Rockstar, who already spent like $1 billion on this game, probably won't say no to that, right? They can save a few millions of money on the promotion because God knows PlayStation want to promote this game to like high hell and back because it's GTA. Of course you do. You want to put your PlayStation 5 next to GTA everywhere, right? I think GTA 5 sold like 400 something million units in its lifetime. GTA 6 is gonna be insane. Insane. And then later on it's gonna release on PC too, which I'm gonna do really good as well. But yeah, so the fact that they mentioned that it's being taken on a base PS5 when they really could have not done it is, in my opinion, alluding to the fact that, yes, they probably already do have a marketing deal with Sony and PlayStation. And in order, maybe they don't have complete, like, overt marketing agreement with each other. Like, completely overt, like, yeah, PlayStation, But maybe this is one of the little deals that they had. There's like, on your second trailer, can you please say it's from a base PS5? That'd be super cool. Or can you please capture this game on a base PS5? That'd be great. And they signed this into agreement. They signed this deal. There's no reason for a company, a big company like Rockstar, to do like a big promotion of a console for free. And I do believe that the Xbox version of this trailer does not have a note where it was taken on PS5. It also doesn't have a note that it's taken on Xbox. So I think it's pretty clear that Rockstar is currently in bed with PlayStation for the marketing of GTA 6. And honestly, this is going to be crazy. This is going to sell PS5s by the droves when it releases next year. And PS5 has been having a great performance, actually. I think we're gonna talk about it later, but basically PS5 and PS4 are currently neck and neck. You know, when you match the time from release to how many years has it been for PS5? 5 years ish. I think PS5 is only behind the PS4 sales by 1 million at the same point in time. So imagine, and that's, remember the PS4 did have GTA 5, but when GTA 5 released on PS4, it wasn't a new game anymore. It wasn't a new release. GTA 5 initially released, crazy enough, on PlayStation 3. So when the PS4 came out, there wasn't really a big thing where, oh my god, the next GTA is playable first on PS4, right? And PS5 now has this where, oh my god, guys, the next GTA, which we've been waiting for how many freaking years now, is releasing on PS5 first. And Xbox, sure. So this is going to sell consoles by a lot, especially the fact that there's no PC release. You know, I think people are already getting a PS5 Pro right now. Because that's gonna be sold out if you buy it around GTA 6's release. Because one thing's for sure is that the best version of GTA will be on PS5 Pro on its release. Because there isn't any other equivalent machine for the PS5 Pro. So therefore, we can conclude that, yeah, PS5 Pro is going to be the best place to play GTA 6, and people are going to want that on its release until the PC version releases. And when the PC version releases, people are going to friggin' double dip. People are going to be like, yeah, I bought this game on PS5. I'm going to buy it again on PC. Yeah, hell yeah. Rockstar is going to make so much money. It's going to be monumental in many ways. So, excited to see how GTA 6 pans out. Hopefully, they really do have enough time to make the game. I think they also mentioned somewhere, I don't know, it was mentioned somewhere that the reason it was delayed as well is so that they can, deliver this product with as little crunch time as possible. Crunch being this kind of culture where devs just work 24/7 on the game just to get it out, right? And I think they're making games more ethically now, where they're trying to really just not rely on crunch to get games out. So delaying the game means, if delaying the game means devs can go home to their husbands and wives, then sure, keep on doing it. People are just going to wait either way. People are going to wait. People are going to be excited either way, when it releases. So good on them for delaying. I expect another delay, though. I feel like after this delay, there's going to be another, maybe 6-month delay or something. I don't know. Probably not a year more, but I have a feeling it's going to be delayed again. Because this is a big game. $1 billion spent on it. Might as well just put your whole Aussie in it. God damn it. Okay. So GTA 6. Also, the trailer looks incredible. Watch it. One of the best trailers I've ever seen. Visually. The story itself, yet to be seen, but it does look pretty interesting. They have a whole Bonnie and Clyde situation going on. Hell yeah. So yeah. So that's it for GTA 6. Next article is from Video Games Chronicle again. Sackboy vanishes from PlayStation's intro, causing fans to worry for Little Big Planet's future. The former PlayStation mascot has been removed from its production's cast of characters. So, it says here, as spotted by ex-user Radic, the PlayStation Productions intro for the recent Until Dawn movie has formally removed Sackboy from its cast of characters, compared to previous things featured before movies like 2023's Gran Turismo, which included the character. Sony's PlayStation Studios intro included at the start of its PS5 games are bespoke for each game, usually featuring characters from each game-specific series. However, PlayStation Productions intro has always included a cast of characters from across PlayStation's first-party games, seemingly representing their importance to the gaming brand. So, when people saw Until Dawn and it was showing the PlayStation Productions intro, Sackboy wasn't there. But was Astro Boy there? Unsurprisingly, many fans view the Until Dawn omission as another sign that Little Big Planet's importance could be on the wane at PlayStation, especially with another platformer, Astrobot, now sweeping Game of the Year awards and et cetera, et cetera. It's like seeing a family member getting cut out of the picture, wrote one ex-user. It's very sad to see Sackboy just full on getting removed, and I don't like that. Why can't Astro and Sackboy coexist? They'd be besties. So, Sackboy, I was actually very fond of Sackboy as a character. However, I don't think Sackboy is a good representation of PlayStation because he's a boy dressed as a sack. You know? I don't think so. I don't think so. He was very cute. Sackboy was very cute. The games were also really good. I played so much of Little Big Planet 1 and 2. I wasn't able to play 3 anymore, or the Sackboy Big Adventure or something game. And Media Molecule was such a hot topic back then, but it's kind of funny that they dropped the ball with Dreams. But, you know, Sackboy was the boy way back when during the PlayStation 3 era. I think PlayStation 3 was struggling. If you remember, PS3 was struggling with a bunch of games that just, you know, we got stuff like Haze, right? And then Little Big Planet came along and kind of saved it in a way. Because suddenly, you got Whimsy back, you got a nice, marketable mascot from it as well, and you also got a really good game with a lot of groundbreaking user-generated content. So, in a way, Little Big Planet really contributed to PlayStation 3's success. However, as the years went on, it was clear that Sackboy wasn't really gonna cut it as a mascot. I think Astrobot is much more of a PlayStation mascot than Sackboy ever was. However, while I do think Astro Boy is super cute, I also think Astro Boy is a bit generic in a way. You know, he's just a cyborg boy, right? He's a cyborg, technologically looking boy. However, he does have the aesthetic of a PlayStation 5. So immediately, he makes it more. Astro Boy makes itself more recognizable as connected to the PlayStation brand than Sackboy ever was. And also, Little Big Planet also won some awards, if I remember correctly, right? I think Little Big Planet won a bunch of stuff. You know, it wasn't just like this random game that people were like, yeah, pretty cool niche thing. So Little Big Planet did win some Game of the Years, Console Game of the Year, Family Game of the Year, right? The game also received recognition at the BAFTA for artistic achievement and was honored with 6 awards at the Navigator Awards, including Game of the Year and Game Design. So, yeah, LBP is just as good in awards as Astro Boy, you could argue, but, you know, Astro Boy just had the more high-profile gaming event, which is the Game Awards, behind it. But, yeah, so Sackboy, RIP. I actually really liked you, but I don't think there is, you know, if Media Molecule doesn't bring Sackboy back in some way, but even if they do, right? It'll be weird to see Sackboy fighting off against Astro Boy. It's like, who do I choose? It's kind of sad. Video Games Chronicle here has a picture of Sackboy, and Sackboy's sad. My God. It's hard to choose. Sackboy has the nostalgia of the PlayStation 3 era for me, which I really love. And the PS3 era is definitely my favorite era because it's the more interesting era where lots of things and changes happened. But, you know, Astro Boy is a new hot thing. And Sackboy is just a sack. A sad sack of a character. Gone. Somehow with a tongue underneath that mouth. But yeah. I don't know. Would I like to see Sackboy back? Yes. But I don't want to. I don't want him to come back and people are like, "What the hell is this?" You know. So I think maybe it is time to bury Sackboy into the proverbial soil forever with his sack friends and his sack coffin and his sack life. We're just gonna remember his sack forever. Okay. So thank you, Sackboy, for your service. Next article, big one. Also from Video Games Chronicle. But they also posted this like on their Twitter. But Gears of War is officially coming to PlayStation 5 in August. One of Microsoft's biggest franchises is making the jump to PlayStation. Gears of War Reloaded is officially coming this August to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. So Microsoft has announced that the Gears of War franchise will debut on PlayStation this August. Gears of War Reloaded is a modernized version of the original Gears of War game and features all the improvements from Gears of War Ultimate Edition plus modern performance boosts. So it'll release at $39.99 on all platforms. It'll also be available on Game Pass day one. And Xbox players who own the digital version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition receive a free upgrade to Gears of War Reloaded. Wait, so only the Ultimate Edition? I guess? Yeah. So Gears of War Reloaded includes support for 4K and 120 FPS. And the multiplayer suite from the original game. Interesting that they're also gonna re-release, so to speak, the multiplayer side of it. But yeah. Gears of War is I guess the penultimate thing left to make the jump to PlayStation. And Gears of War is honestly up there, maybe just a little bit lower, but it's up there with Halo that gave Xbox its brand. You know, when you think of Xbox, when you thought of Xbox, when it was at its peak, the Xbox 360 era, right? The Xbox 360 is the first time we were like, ooh, that's so next gen, right? Gears of War was their game, and Halo. And they basically are synonymous with Xbox. Those two games. I think there's an argument to be had for Forza or something, but you know, there's a racing games. I haven't really paid attention to them. But definitely Gears of War, Xbox. And now that Gears of War is coming to PlayStation, that leaves one franchise left. And that's Halo. And if Gears of War isn't safe from the jump to PlayStation, then surely Halo isn't as well. At least there's a non-zero chance of Halo making the jump to PlayStation. That's gonna be crazy. Because as a gamer who lived through the transition from PS2 to PS3, seeing the initial downfall of the PS3 against Xbox 360, which technically was a new player in the space, right? From the Xbox and the Xbox 360, and then absolutely dominating the PlayStation 3 with their games like Gears of War, Halo, even BioShock at the time. And seeing Gears of War and Halo be Xbox's big thing. And now fast forward to today, seeing this news, it's a bit crazy to me. I never would have thought I'd see the day. Right? So I'm happy though, because finally I get to play Gears of War. I played a little bit of Gears of War when I was a kid because, you know, I was a PlayStation guy, you know, and you don't really buy multiple consoles. If ever I did buy multiple consoles, I only buy the PlayStation and a Nintendo console, right? I wouldn't really buy a PlayStation, an Xbox, and Nintendo. And I really wouldn't buy an Xbox over a PlayStation because PlayStation has, back then, Kingdom Hearts. We thought it'd have Kingdom Hearts. You know, but it also had Versus 13 and stuff like that. And those are mostly like actually just PlayStation games, so to speak. So I would have never really gotten the Xbox even if I wanted to. But I remember I went to my classmate's house way back when, and he had an Xbox 360. And that guy is also from America. He was like he transferred to the Philippines for high school. And so it makes sense that he's more of an Xbox guy because even here in the Philippines, this is a PlayStation dominated area. In the console space, which is still pretty niche, it's PlayStation and Nintendo dominated. No one really has an Xbox. I guess there are, but no one, quote unquote, no one really just means not a lot compared to the others, right? So this friend of mine was American, from America, brought his Xbox 360. And so that was my first time seeing, oh my God, next gen. I was still on PlayStation 2 then, right? Because the PS3 was so expensive. No, because Xbox 360 released like a year earlier than PS3, if I remember correctly. Yes. So that's why I was on a PS2 and he was on his Xbox 360 playing next gen games. And then I saw Gears of War. I was like, this is sick. This is so good. So, years later, finally, I'm going to be playing Gears of War. I know Gears of War is on PC, but I hate playing games on PC. So, yeah. So, Gears of War. However, there was a really weird thing here in the press release. Let me just bring it up. The press release for Gears of War. It said Xbox PC. I don't know what that means. So it said like something like, it's going to release on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox PC, and Steam or something, or PC. Oh, Xbox PC. So, I guess they're cooking. They're cooking something. Xbox PC? Okay. But yeah. Can't wait. Excited. Gears of War. Next article is from Sony. Sony announces new studio TeamLFG. Including Bungie, Fortnite, and Roblox veterans, the new Washington-based studio is working on an ambitious incubation project. So TeamLFG, we know about this team. We've known about this team from long ago. If you remember correctly, Bungie, right? Remember Bungie when they were screwing up? PlayStation kind of took over, right? Took over the executive suite and did some restructuring. And with the restructuring, they took out certain talent from the team, took them away from Bungie, and put them in their own little thing, own little team, right? To make a game by themselves. But they're definitely talent from Bungie, right? With that kind of pedigree. And this is that team. We finally have a name to them. And they're called TeamLFG. I guess this is like looking for a group. This is probably... It can be both. LFG, looking for a group. Let's freaking go. Right? Can be both. And maybe that's the fun thing about it. But here, it says in the blog, from the PlayStation blog, welcome TeamLFG to the PlayStation Studios family. So CEO of Studio Business Group, Herman Holst of Sony Interactive Entertainment said, today I am thrilled to officially unveil a new studio in the PlayStation Studios family. TeamLFG originated in Bungie, but has also rallied developers from across the industry to bring to life an ambitious incubation project that I'm very excited about. The studio is now fully formed and ready to be introduced to the world. They can finally debut. So I'll let TeamLFG introduce themselves properly. Here we go. So they have a little letter here from the group TeamLFG. Hello world, it's a delight to meet you, and we're very grateful to be joining PlayStation Studios. Our studio is headquartered in Bellevue, Washington, with team members working both on-site and remotely throughout the US and Canada. We are a team composed not just of industry veterans who have shipped titles like Destiny, Halo, blah, 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 but also industry newcomers with fresh creative perspectives and skills. We are passionate about exceptional action-based gameplay, moment-to-moment game feel, and richly social virtual worlds. The LFG in TeamLFG stands for looking for group, which is actually pretty cool. So this is going to be a multiplayer project, right? We are driven by a mission to create games where players can find friendship, community, and belonging. We want our players to feel excited when they log on to discover their teammates already hanging out online. We want our players to recognize familiar names and to make myths and memes out of each other. We want our players to love remembering that one time where they pulled off that play that changed the whole story of the match. As we say on the team, that's the good stuff. We will make immersive multiplayer worlds propelled by action games that players can learn, play, and master for countless hours. We want to build our games with our communities, inviting players to be part of our development process through early access playtests. It's critical that we stay nimble enough to react to player feedback, not just in our lead up to launch, but throughout live service as we continue to grow the game and community for years to come. Our first game is a team-based action game that draws inspiration from fighting games, platformers, MOBAs, life sims, and frog-type games. What? Frog-type games. Frog-type games. What is that? Frog? F-R-O-G? Frog-type? Frogger? Players will inhabit a lighthearted comedic world set in will inhabit a lighthearted comedic world set in a brand new mythic. There's a typo there. Brand new mythic science fantasy universe. We can't wait to reveal more. Until then, we'll do our best. Thanks for reading. So this is pretty interesting and is more in line with what Sony has been doing before, but also with a little bit of extra steps. Because what Sony has done before is that they support other developers in the more second-party capacity first, right? They nurture certain small teams, and then when they're ready, they bring them into the fold. However, in this case, with Bungie, they didn't really work with Bungie before, but they were just like, Bungie, you're ours now. So they bought Bungie outright, which is not working for them for sure. However, I feel very positive about this because you're basically taking talent from Bungie and also taking talent from, other places in the industry as well and making a small team with a shared small goal, with their expertise and experience and just taking them away from the heaviness that Bungie brings, from all the complications of Bungie. Just take them away and make them do their thing, right? Make them make a project. In many ways, this feels like the thing with Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, where it's like a few developers from Ubisoft just broke away. They chipped away like 3 developers or something from Ubisoft, and then they took talent from, the rest of the industry elsewhere who are looking for jobs, 30 people, and they made a great game with Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This feels very much like that. However, the result is still to be seen. But I do like the name, looking for a group. I do like the logo as well. This reminds me of, stuff like Team Asobi, Japan Studio, right, from PlayStation as well. It's just a small team that's going to be making fun games. And hopefully it pans out for them. Hopefully the game that they're making is good. However, I'm definitely not expecting anything big. I'm not expecting like Concord. I'm not expecting Fairgame. Maybe Helldivers, maybe not. Because they said it's comedic and lighthearted, so I'm expecting a bit more family-oriented game, multiplayer game. But we'll see. We'll see. Honestly, I'm looking for the whimsy and fun of Astrobot and just make it multiplayer somehow, right? It does say here fighting games, platformers, MOBAs. I feel like it's too broad. You can't really tell what they're trying to do from this. Maybe it's a MOBA with platforming and fighting game elements. I don't know what the frog type game is. Also, life sim. This makes me feel like they're making some sort of... There was this game that I played the other day called Starlight Revolver. It's a new game by Pado Labs, and it's the basic gameplay structure of it is Hades. It's a roguelite. So you take a character, you go through a dungeon, and every room you go through, you get a upgrade to your skills or a new ability, money, or health, stuff like that. Then you try to go as far into the dungeon as you can, and then you're gonna die because it's a difficult game. You're gonna die, and then when you die, you go back to the hub world, and then you buy some upgrades, and then you go through the dungeon again, right? And you're gonna get higher and higher as you upgrade your character, and you keep playing the game and learning these dungeons and stuff like that. So Starlight Revolver has that gameplay loop, but it has a hub world where it can support like 30 people in an instance that you can talk to and interact with, right? It has like stickers, some emotes, has a chat room, has like mini games that you can play together, has like areas where you can hang out in, right? So that's what I feel like this is kind of going for, where there is a real game in there, but it's connected by a kind of hub social system that makes it a multiplayer game. All right, Starlight Revolver, also Hades concept, Hades gameplay loop, but co-op as well. So you go into a hub world, around 30 people around, you get your players with you, you get your people with you, a maximum of 4, and then you go into a dungeon, do that, and then you go back to the hub world, and then, all the players are there hanging out and doing stuff, right? This is what I feel like it's going to be, just similar to that, where there is a social system here, a social multiplayer system, and then a core gameplay loop. We'll see. We don't know for sure, but I'm feeling a bit positive about this, especially if it's going to be like a fun, family-oriented game, which is why Astrobot was super successful and is super needed, because PlayStation has been bloated with these dad sims, with these super serious narrative adventures, and you know what? To be fair, that's a strength. But they also need to venture out into these more family-oriented games, into these more kid-friendly games. The domain that Nintendo is kind of dominating, right? Like, just make Nintendo earn it in a way. Give Nintendo some competition, even if it's like just a little knife against a big gas like boulder, right? Just do it. Who knows? Who knows, right? You might get the next Mario or something. So yeah, that's it for TeamLFG, new studio from PlayStation Studios. Pretty cool. They were taken from Bungie. Okay, it's like the story of Adam and Eve. Where Eve was taken from the rib or something of Adam. So that's TeamLFG. It was taken from the rib of Bungie to create Eve. Okay. Next article is this is so interesting. I'm so hyped for this. So good. Mafia, the Old Country. So from the press release at newsroom2k.com, Mafia, the Old Country, launching August 8th, 2025, debuts official gameplay trailer and developer insights video. So, game is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC via Steam and NVIDIA GeForce Now on August 8th, 2025. It is a focused linear experience that combines quality storytelling, authentic era immersion, and a refined take on the familiar Mafia gameplay. That focus allows us to deliver a story that's gritty, grounded, brutal, and emotional. Embracing early 1900s era Sicily, this is a Mafia origin story that follows our protagonist Enzo Favara as he takes the oath and works his way up Don Torrisi's crime family. So, this is very cool. This is so cool. I saw the YouTube video and my God, what a good looking game. Now, I've always loved Mafia. I played Mafia 1 and 2. Didn't really like 3. Didn't even finish it. I just got 10 hours into it. But now I feel like going back to these games, playing them. I think 1 has some sort of remaster going on. I haven't even seen it. But just looking at this game, I was like, oh, yes. I love this kind of time period. this whole Italy, Sicily thing with a Mafia. It's so good. So it's releasing August 8th. But one of the things here that's very interesting, it's going to be a linear, story-driven experience. So here, from the 2K president, said, "We think there's a large audience for compelling stories that don't require massive time commitments. We're excited to offer a game like Mafia: The Old Country in our portfolio and to provide a linear, highly polished narrative experience that can easily complement the other more persistent games our players also love and engage with on a more consistent." This is pretty cool. I would have expected them to make another big-ass open world game, with microtransactions and a lot of fluff that, pads your time. So you can say that you're still playing Mafia like 1 month later. But no, they went the more quote-unquote honorable route. The more budget-friendly route as well. The game also just costs $50. It's not a full-priced game. And that makes things pretty interesting because I think Mafia 1, 2, and 3, were positioned as like these full-price games, right? And then this new Mafia comes along and suddenly it's a $50 game. It's not a full-price game, which is pretty cool. So that means the scope is also less now. It's not going to be open world. I don't even think it's going to be semi-open world, which is like the Mafia 1 and 2 were. It's just straight up going to be a linear action game, kind of like Last of Us, maybe? That makes this so much more interesting to me. I was already hyped when I saw the first trailer, and I'm even more hyped. Because what's another game that's just the right amount of time, just the right length, but also costs $50, but feels like a full-price game recently? That's Clair Obscur Expedition 33, right? I have a good feeling about this game. I think it's going to be freaking amazing. So, yeah, Mafia: The Old Country. August 8th, everywhere, $50. Linear narrative adventure. Woo! Good times. We're living in good times. We're living in good times where developers and publishers are now kind of exploring alternative pricing. Because there was a long period of time where if you're just going to make a game that looks a certain way, right? Just price it at 60. It doesn't matter. That's what games are priced. Price it at 60. But now, even games that look as good as this and Clair Obscur Expedition 33, they could easily charge 70 for those. But, there's now this kind of option for you that's more widely accepted in the industry, where if you think you can get away with 50 and possibly get more units into people's hands, then that's an option for you. You can go 50, get 40, 45, 60, 55. Sky's the limit. Whatever you think you should price your game, sure, do it. So 50 for this game is pretty good. Pretty unexpected. Especially it's 2K. All right. So that's it for Mafia: The Old Country. Pretty cool. Next article is... Oh, boy. This next one is pretty disappointing. Jade Raymond has left Haven Studios, the PlayStation-owned studio she founded. Sony acquired the Assassin's Creed producers studio in 2022. Actually, let me see. Jade Raymond. What is Jade Raymond's last game? Let me see. Google, tell me. What is Jade Raymond's very last game that she released? The last game that she released was... So she's currently doing Fairgames. Wait, I can't see it. Because I remember we talked about Jade Raymond before. I think because I didn't really know who Jade Raymond was, and I was like, why is her name... Why do people keep saying her name as if she's someone big? As if she's someone like super important in the industry. And apparently she worked on a lot of big things like Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed, Star Wars Battlefront 2 at Ubisoft. Then Star Wars Battlefront 2 at Motive Studios at Electronic Arts. So was that her last game? Star Wars Battlefront 2? When did that release? Star Wars Battlefront 2 release date. 2017. So if this is true, then she hasn't had a game completed since 2017. Okay? But people are hyping her up like she's some sort of god in video games. In the video games industry. Maybe she is. But I don't know. Right? She made Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Bloodlines, and Watch Dogs. Left the studio, which is still in the process of developing an online shooter, Fairgame. So yes, Jade Raymond is the main director, I guess, from Haven Studios, which is a PlayStation studio, which came into the fold of PlayStation Studios in 2021. And they were developing Fairgame. Now, Fairgames, if you remember correctly, is a live service action game. Live service game that Sony has been pursuing, part of their live service strategy, alongside Concord, Helldivers 2, right? But Fairgames hasn't released yet. And all the pressure is currently on Fairgames at the moment because after Concord's failure, Fairgames needs to hit. But people are going to be looking at Fairgames through the lens of Concord and what happened to Concord. So this is a very difficult position for Haven Studios to be in. And it seemed like they were right on track until today. When was this released? 3 days ago. Until 3 days ago when Jade Raymond, the director, and the whole pitch for the studio that came with, because this studio has Jade Raymond in it, right? So we're buying you. She has left Haven Studios. Although a reason wasn't given for Raymond's departure, this report cites sources who note that an external test of Fairgames took place several weeks ago and that some developers were concerned about how it was received. So she basically jumped ship. The departure rounds off an eventual decade for Raymond, who left Ubisoft to found EA's Motive Studio in 2015 before leaving in 2018. Wait! 2018 Google Stadia. After Google decided to close its internal games development and teams in 2021. There it is. There it is. So her last game indeed was Star Wars Battlefront 2, actual game. Then she went to Stadia, and Stadia just failed and is gone now. She left her position as Stadia's development boss. And along with 5 co-founders, around 20 ex-Google employees launched Haven Studios, and then Sony acquired them in 2022. Well, this is unfortunate for Fairgame. So now, aside from the game itself, there's also going to be negative press about it. Because, there's a lot of, when directors leave projects, even if they're just one guy, they're the director, right? They had a vision and they were executing his vision or her vision. And when that director leaves, you replace him. And, it's just human nature that the replacement director probably also has their own idea of how the game should go, right? And things become messy. There. So they're currently on their second kind of director. Reminds me of Insomniac's Wolverine, who I think is on their third director now. So that quite obviously there's some internal turmoil there with their development. So this tells me that Haven Studios and Fairgames are in some sort of situation where the project is not turning out to be as good as expected. Maybe. I really want to give Fairgames the, just a good shake before actually being like, oh no. But Jade Raymond was like the press release when Haven Studios was acquired. Is that, oh, it's Jade Raymond Studio. Oh, Jade Raymond is now in PlayStation. Oh my God. And now she left. So now what? Sure, a development team is made of multiple people, but she was the boss. She was the one who had a vision. And now she's gone. So Fairgames is not looking pretty hot right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly Sony's going to be like, we are canceling Fairgames. I don't know. Would it be worth it for Sony to just cancel Fairgames at this late into the game? Who knows? We still don't know much about Fairgames aside from it's like a heist shooter thing, right? But yeah, unfortunately disappointing. And is another pin in this discussion that Jim Ryan's live service vision was very ill executed, right? Because the live service plan is a smart plan, right? Get some live service hits. You have the budget, you have the money, you have the wiggle room to make a live service game, to do multiple live service games, to experiment and hopefully get a hit like Helldivers 2. But the execution of the plan has been pretty lackluster. The execution so far has been by Bungie, have them review our future live service projects, right? Then have our existing studios do live service projects, even if they're more into single player games. Let's get some new studios that are going to be acquired for the sole purpose of making live service games. Let's have Bungie review them as well for a good chance at, having this pan out for us. The results so far have been Bungie is completely in a bad position. Apparently, it was very mismanaged, right? The live service Last of Us game got canceled. Concord, biggest flop in PlayStation history, right? Helldivers 2 was a big success, sure. Helldivers 2, hell yeah. And now, also misallocation of live service projects at studios. Blue Point Games, who was good at remastering, whose expertise is remastering games, has been making a live service God of War game, right? Oh boy. The intention was there. The intention was good. Get a live service hit. The execution, not. Far from it. So we'll see how this pans out. Hopefully Fairgames, if it comes back, if it gets re-revealed, hopefully it's something good. I don't know. God damn it. I actually want Sony to succeed with the live service stuff. You know why? Because if they succeed in the live service stuff, they get more wiggle room to make truly unique and big projects, right? Because right now, their big solution for not having a live service, like multiple live service hits yet, is to keep releasing remasters. And these remasters of still very new games are what's funding their big newer games, AAA development games. That's what's funding it. So as long as we're in this position where Sony still doesn't have its live service hit, because for the live service games are on PlayStation. They get Fortnite, they got Apex Legends, Valorant, they got Genshin Impact and all that stuff, Wuthering Waves, you know? But for the profits from that, they get only 30% of it, you know? Sure, they make a lot of money from those, but it's just 30%. Now, imagine a world where they can have 3 games that could be a Genshin Impact, so to speak, and get 100% of the profit because they made it, right? That would unlock a lot of things. That would unlock friggin' more budgets allocated to the teams that we know and love, making cool new games, making bigger and better projects. But currently, they don't. And so we're being treated with a bunch of remasters of games that still look good to somehow fund these big projects that they have. So we'll have to see what happens to Fairgames. I really wanted to do good, but it's really not. Nothing is giving me confidence for it. Okay, next article is, speaking of the live service games, Helldivers 2. This is from Push Square. Helldivers 2 dev breaks away from PlayStation. Next game will be self-funded. So, according to CEO Shams Jorjani on Discord, Arrowhead Studios has confirmed that it will not be partnering with PlayStation for its next game. So, Helldivers 1 and 2 were pretty much they pretty much partner with PlayStation to get it out, especially for Helldivers 2. But for this next game, they say they're not going to be doing that anymore. They're likely going to be multi-platform. So the co-op shooter has been so successful that the company can now self-fund whatever's next, and whatever it is, it's probably going to be multi-platform. Game 6, our next project, will happen the way it will happen thanks to you, he wrote. The next game is 100% funded by ourselves, so we'll call 100% of those shots. Jorjani then shut down suggestions that there might be some kind of bad blood between Arrowhead and PlayStation. Remember, because PlayStation fumbled a lot during the early days of Helldivers 2 with the whole PlayStation account thing where you need to have a PlayStation account in order to play the game at all, and locking the game out of 100-something countries, right? And he said, no way. PlayStation is great. There would be no Helldivers if it wasn't for them. We're open to working with them again in the future. They are incredibly game and dev-oriented, solid partners, and this is me just saying it like it is. Okay, so there isn't bad blood between them. Of course, from a Sony and PlayStation perspective, all this is probably a bit of a kicker. Helldivers 2 has been Sony's biggest live service success by a ludicrous distance, to the point where rumors regarding a potential acquisition of Arrowhead were being thrown around last year. Here's the thing. I really thought PlayStation was going to get Arrowhead the same way it got the creators of Resogun, Returnal. You know, it seemed like they had the same kind of pedigree, the same type of game, the same quality of a developer as well, but apparently not. And now that this is happening, because it's kind of ironic that it's because of this partnership with PlayStation and the Helldivers 2 success that they're not going to be with PlayStation for the next game. But this isn't really worrying if you're a PlayStation fan. You know why? Because this game is probably also going to release on PlayStation anyway. Right? They did say it's going to be multi-platform. So it's probably going to be releasing on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, and probably Switch too, which should be worth it for them, right? If you could somehow get the Switch 2 audience to like your game and play it, that'll be big for them. So good on them for going multi-platform. Actually, it makes sense. You don't have any kind of obligation to just go PlayStation every time, at least not these days. Before, there was some sort of loyalty between companies where they're like, yeah, I'm just going to release my game on PlayStation because they're a good partner. They're really good with us. And PlayStation is cool. Let's just release on PlayStation. Those days are now gone. Just release your game on everything. Truly believe just release your game on everything, unless you specifically get a deal with PlayStation, right? If PlayStation specifically is like, yeah, make your game exclusive to our platform, and we're gonna be paying 50% of the development, right? Hell yeah, that's good. I think that's good. That's good for the developers because they get the money. They get a lot of money from it. And they also get the, the brand power and stuff like that, right? But if you don't have such obligations and you're just looking to release your game, just release it on everything, please. Just do it. Just do it if you have the budget, of course. There isn't any sense in just going with one platform. Which is why I hope the 100 Line, the Last Academy, would somehow release their game on PlayStation. Why isn't it on PlayStation? Why isn't it on just PC and Switch? I feel like PlayStation would have been the best platform to put it on. Maybe the third best platform to put it on. It's better. It was there if it was there for sales as well. But unfortunately, it's on PC only and Switch. But sure, whatever. So yeah, and I do see PlayStation be like, okay, guys, Helldivers 2 is over. Let's make Helldivers 3. And now we go back to, the whole thing. And now Helldivers 2 has brand power behind it because Helldivers 2 did not have big brand power behind it because Helldivers 1, Helldivers 1 was really good. I played it before. It wasn't as big as Helldivers 2. So now that they have Helldivers 2 under their belt, they now have a bit more sway, a bit more power over the gaming audience, right? When they finally release Helldivers 3, people will be like, oh, that's that cool game from before. Yes! Yes! People will be excited. Whereas for Helldivers 2, only people who were like into Helldivers 1 were excited, but everything else was just based on what they saw of the game, on streamers, on trailers, and stuff like that, right? So yeah, cool. Cool for them. Arrowhead, do it. Go multi-platform. Do your best work. Hopefully it pans out for you. Because your games are really good. True. I'm not even joking. It's really good. Yeah. And for the last PlayStation news, that is also the latest news, and probably the biggest news in terms of PlayStation these past 2 weeks, is regarding Marathon by Bungie. So, this is extremely disappointing to see. And just another in the series of negative blows that Bungie has been suffering in recent months, in recent years. Remember, Bungie has been taken over by PlayStation because it's being mismanaged, right? By its previous executive suite. And Destiny 2 is currently ending, although Destiny 2 is showing signs of life with new stuff, but its main saga is now ended. And now Bungie's next thing is Marathon. It's hoping Marathon will be its return to form, right? After all the awful mismanagement it experienced from its previous owners, previous execs. And PlayStation is also now trying to right the ship because they paid for Bungie. They paid for Bungie to be in PlayStation Studios. And this just all in all is a big negative, a net loss for them. Babying Bungie to become something. And I don't think they're ever going to get their ROI on Bungie unless Marathon is somehow the hottest thing since Fortnite or something, which kind of doubt, but we'll see. But those chances are even lower now because Bungie has been accused of stealing another person's an artist's art and art style to bring Marathon to life. So there was a user called 4NT1R3. I don't know how to read real? Anti-real? I guess? Anti-real. Scottish artist Fern Anti-Real Hook accused Bungie of taking assets from her previous work and using it in the alpha for Marathon. And now I did check the post that she was talking about, like her art. And her art, it's yes. This is the Marathon art style. And then Bungie later acknowledged that Hook's claims were accurate and claimed that a former staff member was responsible for taking her art. So Bungie admitted it, unfortunately, that yes, indeed, a former artist that wasn't with Bungie anymore took the design language and art style of this artist and used it for Marathon. And I guess was so... I mean, the art and style was so good that it basically informed the rest of Marathon's art style from what it looks to me, right? On Friday, the developer kicked off its weekly Marathon live stream in somber fashion, first announcing that it would not have any gameplay due to the ongoing investigation into the lifted artwork. Joseph Cross, Marathon's art director, then claimed Bungie was conducting a thorough review process to remove any art from the game that was inappropriately sourced and ensure that the situation doesn't happen again in the future. Cross claimed that Bungie had reached out to Fern Hook, the artist, to apologize and make sure they do right by her, though no specific details were shared on how it plans to do so. It came to our attention that an artist who worked on Marathon in the early stages of pre-production took a number of graphic elements from a graphic designer without permission or acknowledgement and then placed them on a decal sheet that was then checked in 2020. Oh, man. The decal sheet included icon and text elements, which ended up in our alpha build. Wait. There's absolutely no excuse for this oversight, and we are working on or are 100% committed to a review process to ensure that instances like this don't happen again at Bungie. So Cross claimed that over the last 24 hours, he had reached out to Fern Hook and was auditing all work done by former Bungie artists responsible, and that it would remove anything deemed inappropriately sourced. So hundreds of artists worked on this project, and externally would share many influences, including modernism, 2000 style, vector art, cyberpunk, and of course the original Marathon trilogy. And they said their style is a result of all of these inspirations. But yeah, this specific part of Marathon was taken completely from an artist who does it. Now, I actually watched the Marathon trailers again, and it seems to me that it's not just the art itself, putting the art and making an asset in the world of Marathon. It's the whole visual language of it. It had all these text and icons and stuff, and the very frenetic, digital look to it. And what's cool is that Anti-Real's art is I think it's very unique. Honestly, it's not something that's a bunch of people have the same art style as them or the same kind of design language as she's developing. It's very unique to her. Maybe there's some elements borrowed from other cyberpunk digital looking things, but it's quite clear that Bungie, or the artist from Bungie, really took from her work, which is a big no-no. So to that extent, I want to send my personal apology to Anti-Real, whose work was used in this case. I know how unfair this feels, and we're doing everything we can to make this right. Her work is fantastic, and we clearly share a mutual appreciation for a specific genre of graphic design, and I'm excited to have folded that into our style in general. So this was Anti-Real's post. So they're at on Twitter is at 4NT1R34L. When I say the numbers, it's just a number, so it's Anti-Real. But the vowels are in numbers. The Marathon Alpha released recently. Its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017. It's quite overt that, yeah, it's basically the same. She said here, Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over the game without pay or attribution. I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work than to write me an email. In 10 years, I have never made a consistent income from this work, and I am tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasitizing my designs while I struggle to make a living. So, there it is. Bungie also admitted to it that, yes, this former artist took their work and put it into Marathon. So what I feel like happened here was that that artist took that, didn't say anything, and you can't really have a handle of all the information out there on the internet. You're just a person. You're just human. You can't be like it is very possible that hundreds of people saw this thing and they were like, yeah, I've never seen that before. That's your original thing, artist man. That's yours. Cool. Now let's infuse that into our own art style for Marathon. I could see that happening because you can't have access to all information on the internet everywhere at all times and just know everything, right? That's just one of the things about being human. You can that just can happen. However, it sucks because this former artist really just took it, didn't say anything, and what I assume happened is that they were laid off, right? They left the company, and now since he is gone, no one knows. No one in the company knows that that's just plagiarized. It was taken. And then years go by because people didn't really know better. People didn't know what was happening that was taken. And they just kept building upon this art style and including it, infusing more of it into their game because it looks so cool. It looks so sick. And now we have arrived to this point where a very unfortunate point where Bungie was accused of stealing. And then Bungie was like, yeah, an artist of ours did. Now, the biggest problem here is how are they going to make it right with the artist? Because see here, it says here, there's also a Forbes article, right? Written by Paul Tassi. New Marathon info, Bungie morale, launch worries, and changing plans. So chaos has engulfed Bungie after an artist Anti-Real came forward to accuse Bungie of ripping off her 2017 work. Bungie admitted to the plagiarism, supposedly the work of one ex-artist, and promised to make things right. But the story gained traction among gaming outlets and reaction streamers alike, and it's poisoned the previous positive conversation about aesthetic of the game. But all of this is happening after another not great time period for Marathon in the last few weeks, starting with the gameplay reveal and then its closed alpha, both of which received mostly mixed to negative feedback. And this is the unfortunate thing, is that the biggest thing that was praised from Marathon's showing is its art style and its art design, its design language, its art direction. That was the thing that people are like, yes, you know what? If there's anything here that I cannot even criticize, it's the art style. It's so good. So it sucks that, that style was plagiarized, right? So it says here that the Bungie morale is currently in free fall, and this could delay the game. This could change the game's look radically unless they somehow reach an agreement with Anti-Real that they can continue using their art style for Marathon. And here, morale is in free fall across all departments, and the vibes have never been worse. The vibes. Everyone has the same concerns about what happens to Bungie as a studio if Marathon bombs, which is something they absolutely cannot afford. So now this is just some negative press that they can't afford right now. Unfortunately. It's unclear what the plan is to launch the game in a now actively hostile environment just a few months from now, or how to turn that around. Ooh, all right. They were gonna release this game in soon, right? if they don't come to an agreement with the artist, then they'll have to change the graphics, the art radically. It just sucks. It's just an overall, it sucks. Sucks for Bungie. If it's true, if it's really true, it's an ex-artist and they just didn't know better or what's going on, and that ex-artist was really dishonest, right? About where they got the art. Who is that ex-artist? Let's find him. Not really. I hope they like, you know, accountability, bro. Say who you are. What did you do? Say sorry. Right? But yeah. I wish Bungie well. I hope Marathon succeeds, you know? I never really think about I wish developer whatever team would fail, you know, because these are livelihoods, these are people's jobs, and these are people's jobs that, you know, put food on the table, that take care of their families and stuff like that. I would never be like, yeah, I hope Bungie like dissolves and just goes away forever. I hope that they come to an amicable like agreement with Anti-Real that makes every party happy, for sure. But this is just a little, this is a big stain on an already very stained Bungie, on a very stained Bungie reputation. At least for us who are into gaming news and stuff, right? I'm pretty sure, you know, the person, just a normal person outside that plays Destiny, doesn't really care. But yeah, this sucks overall. Especially for Sony. Because they spent all this money on Bungie. And now this happens. God. Okay. That's it for the Bungie news, which is quite honestly very disappointing. But it is what it is. What can you do when something like that happens? You can do a lot of things to make it right. But, you know, hopefully the artist is happy with whatever solution they come up with. Okay. Now let's go into the RPG news. For the first article for RPG news from Video Games Chronicle, director suggests the rest of the Final Fantasy VII Remake series is coming to Nintendo Switch 2. The second game of the series is currently a PS5 console exclusive. So, remake director Naoki Hamaguchi has implied that the whole series will come to Nintendo Switch 2, not just Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. So, that's pretty much a little announcement from them. It's official, right? Since the creator said it will. So, that's pretty much expected now. It's all coming to Nintendo Switch 2. This will mark the first time the game is playable on a non-PlayStation console. Its sequel, FF7 Rebirth, wasn't announced, but the game's director has suggested both it and the third game in the trilogy will come to Nintendo Switch 2. Speaking as part of Nintendo's Creator Voices series, Hamaguchi referred to the FF7 Remake series rather than just the first game, which is currently announced. And this is on the heels of Square Enix's new multi-platform strategy, where they did say that they are paring down on the amount of games they're making, and they're going to be focusing on less games but more quality, and they're going to be releasing them on as many platforms as possible. So previously, they only released stuff on PlayStation and PC, but now anything's on the table. PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and Nintendo Switch 2, especially now that Switch 2 has more powerful hardware that can handle Remake. However, I feel like the 7 Remake on Switch 2 could be also big, like, endeavor to do. Because I think the Switch 2 is pretty much a more powerful kind of PS4 Pro, so to speak. And Remake was already kind of weird on Pro because it's, you know, it's a pretty big game. It's even kind of weird on PS5, right? With Rebirth specifically. So trying to pare that down for Switch 2 even more when the PS5 was also kind of having problems with Rebirth. Hopefully it works out for them, but also, I mean, this just makes sense for Square Enix. Just release it in everything, right? But this kind of makes me a bit disappointed. Not because I want Final Fantasy VII to remain PlayStation exclusive. I don't care, right? But this this just tells me that they're going to be making the third game while keeping in mind the technical limitations of the Switch 2, right? Because we're already veering into PlayStation 6 era, Yes, there have already been a lot of news and rumors about a PS6 coming maybe in the next few years. And I would have wanted the third game to take more advantage of, if there's going to be new hardware, of the strengths of new hardware, right? But now that they said that they're going to be supporting the Switch 2, they're going to need to develop the third game while keeping this more powerful PS4 Pro, or around the PS4 Pro level, hardware limitations in mind. So what that tells me is that we're not going to see a big leap for the third game compared to Rebirth, I think. In order for Rebirth to happen on Switch 2, it needs to be pretty much on the same level as Rebirth. Because, like I said, Rebirth was already kind of struggling on PS5, base PS5, which is for sure stronger than a Switch 2. Then they can't push it anymore. They can't push the engine anymore, at least not too much, or else they won't be able to release the game on Switch 2. So that kind of sucks to think about, because I really would have thought with a timeline of these releases that, the first game is this more linear narrative action game because it was on the PS4. It needed to run on PS4. Then Rebirth comes out and it's only available on PS5, meaning they had the limitations of the PS5 hardware only in mind. They weren't even thinking about the PS4 anymore, right? Am I correct? Wait, Rebirth, FF7 Rebirth, PS4. Nope, Rebirth is definitely not available on the PS4. So they didn't need to optimize their game for the PS4 anymore. They optimized the game for new hardware, which is PS5. Now, I would have thought that the third game, so Rebirth was an open world game. It was more open world, more ambitious, even with its gameplay and its graphics and stuff like that, which still came with a few caveats in terms of the hardware, right? I really would have thought that by the time the third game would release would be around the release of PS6. And that's when they were going to take advantage of the power of the PS6 and make a game that's maybe less open world than Rebirth, but it's going to focus on big battles, because part 3 is the part where you're going to be fighting like these big ass weapons. These are gigantic Titan-like weapons in the world, right? You'll need like good hardware for that. But now that it's confirmed that it's going to be made to support the Switch 2, I guess we're just now, well, hopefully not, but what it means, what it tells me is that 7 Rebirth is kind of the bar already. Like the upper echelon of what we're going to see for the third game. It's just going to be more of that. Because otherwise, if you take it too high, then you'll have problems having it supported on the Switch 2. So yeah, I'm just a bit disappointed in that way. Hopefully they prove me wrong and that we will still be fighting these big weapons with cool dynamic like battles and stuff instead of like fighting their feet. Because that's what always happens when you're fighting like a big enemy in these RPGs, is that you end up just fighting their hands. You end up just slashing their hands. Ooh, yeah. They're big and gigantic, and then they bring their hands down onto the platform that you're on. Ooh, then they leave the hand there, and then you slash the hand, right? And then apparently you damage the hand enough, you stagger it. And it's a bit, oh no, my hand hurts. And then they bring their head down to the platform so you can now attack their head. And I think that's kind of, whatever. It's cool, but we've been seeing that kind of game since forever. I would have loved to see us actually maybe running on this boss in some way. Like them being a really big bombastic encounter. Kind of like FF16, right? I wonder if 16 is going to be on Switch 2. It hasn't been announced on Switch 2, which is interesting. We'll see. I assume it works on Switch 2, but probably with a lot of concessions. But yeah. 7 Trilogy on Switch 2 in the future. Good job. Good job. Next article is FF7 Remake director can't share why Sephiroth looks different in new trading card, sparking Part 3 speculation. So, Tetsuya Nomura. So, first off, there's this Magic the Gathering collaboration with Final Fantasy, bringing heroes and villains from across the franchise to the popular trading card game. Now, some of these cards have been illustrated by Final Fantasy development veterans, including Sephiroth cards illustrated by Tetsuya Nomura, who was the artist on the original version and creative director of the remake, right? So he said, quote unquote, "This time around, I drew Sephiroth on both the front and back sides of the card. I actually drew them so that they would join up if placed one on top of the other. So if you manage to get two of the same card and line them up, you'll see how the original illustration looked." Now, alongside the Sephiroth Fabled Soldier card, a card depicting Safer Sephiroth, the final boss in the original Final Fantasy VII game, has also been revealed. Now, he says here, there's also a reason the design for Safer Sephiroth is different from the original game. But I unfortunately can't share more about that, Nomura said. And what I have to say about this, Nomura, you need to shut the hell up. Shut up. You're always like this. You're always like, I'm going to put lore in everything. What is this mystery that I made? You'll never get to me. Now, I studied this card. Very, very well. The Sephiroth One-Winged Angel, Safer Sephiroth, and compared it to the original Safer Sephiroth in the original game. And I was like, the only difference here is that the previous one was on a PS1, low poly, no details, and that this one is an art piece that has so many more details and stuff like that. And you know what? That's the reason why you can't share more about that, right? Is that the difference that you're talking about, Tetsuya Nomura? That this is just more detailed because it's art? Huh? I hope to God that's just what you meant, not the freaking lore thing. Right? You know what? I even took it further. I talked to ChatGPT, right? So, if my human eyes can't detect this, then maybe this AI, right? Let's see how smart this freaking AI is, after all. So I was like, okay, ChatGPT, detect the difference between the new Safer Sephiroth from the Magic the Gathering collab and the original Safer Sephiroth on Final Fantasy VII PlayStation 1. And you know what ChatGPT told me? The same thing. That the original one has just no detail because it's a PS1 game. And the new one is a new, just a new art piece of the Safer Sephiroth thing. And it's combined with the other Sephiroth, so which may connect to something new in the Part 3, FF7 game. I'm like, damn. I didn't even need to ask ChatGPT. I already had the answers. I really thought ChatGPT was going to be like, I'm going to analyze every single thing. Oh, it looks like this hair is a bit more to the right. Ooh, this muscle definition is a bit more, which means that in this new game, there's going to be this and that. But nope. Nothing. So Shut up, Nomura. Shut up. Don't make us speculate on the third game that there's gonna be a lore accurate reason as to why, say, for Sephiroth is just more muscular than your new Magic the Gathering art. God damn it. So yeah, cool. FF7 stuff in New Magic the Gathering all looks really good, actually. Yep. Next article. The saddest I have ever been. Not really, but it's still very sad. You know me. You know, this whole podcast is named after a Kingdom Hearts feature, Triangle to Win. And now, in this news, Kingdom Hearts mobile game Missing Link has been canceled. Mobile game Kingdom Hearts Missing Link has been canceled, Square Enix has announced. The game, which was first announced during a Kingdom Hearts 20th anniversary event in 2022, has had multiple closed beta tests since then, but will not see a full release. So the whole statement is here. They posted it on their official Twitter accounts. Development team announcement. We have made the decision to cancel the development of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. We wish to convey our heartfelt apologies to everyone who has been looking forward to the start of service. Although we worked hard on developing and adjusting the game in the hope that it would be enjoyed by lots of players, we determined that it would be difficult for us to offer a service that players would find satisfactory over a long period of time, leading us to the decision to cancel development. We would like to take this opportunity to express our thanks to everyone who gave us their support and assistance with the multiple closed beta tests. We are truly sorry to have to make this announcement. The Kingdom Hearts series will continue. We are hard at work on Kingdom Hearts 4 and hope you'll continue to support the series as you keep an eye out for further updates. Unfortunately, this game, it makes sense, right? It makes sense. Every new event, for many events now, PlayStation Showcase, E3, well, not E3, Directs, right, from everywhere, we have been looking for Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. And it's just not anywhere to be seen at all. And it turns out, it makes sense that it's going to be canceled. Maybe they felt this for a while now, that it's just not going to hit, right? And knowing the previous mobile games, what they really wanted here was to have an ongoing long story for multiple updates, maybe for years, to tell this whole story. Now, what's going to happen here is that, much like another certain game, like Tribe 9, recently, Tribe 9 made by, was it Spike Chunsoft? I don't remember. I think it was just after like a few months of being live that they closed it down, right? And I think that's what they saw as the future for Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, is that, sure, it's going to be played by the Kingdom Hearts fans, but you need more than that to get a big, super successful mobile live service game and keep it running for years to come. And so I think this is just the best case scenario. Just don't release it anymore and just can it and put the story that you made there into other bigger things that you're sure is going to be probably going to sell more in different ways, like Kingdom Hearts 4, right? And I think this is also one of the things that's part of Square Enix renewed strategy to release less games but more quality games with more selling potential than if they would just release like 10 different like small games, right? It's still sad to see Kingdom Hearts Missing Link go, because the whole thing about Missing Link was it's supposed to be the missing link between the Keyblade War and the Keyblade users of old, and it's supposed to connect in some way to the events of Kingdom Hearts 4, because it deals with this new arc, so to speak, that started because the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 was the end of an arc, was end of the Darkseeker saga, and Kingdom Hearts 4 is supposed to be the start of a new arc. And this new arc is connected to this whole new thing that was introduced recently into Kingdom Hearts with all the Keyblade wielders, the Keyblade War, and all these factions, whatever, right? So now that's gone. And all I hope is that they're going to fold the content from that into Kingdom Hearts 4 in some way. Because if the concept for it was going to be the missing link between the past and the future, then surely they'll need to explain that in Kingdom Hearts 4. Right? Surely there needs to be an explanation or a connector in Kingdom Hearts 4 to explain that. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we see a missing link, but in a different form. But it makes sense. I feel like it's harder now to make a mobile game hit. I feel like way back when mobile was still young in terms of, games and stuff, I think it was easier to make a mobile hit then. But now everyone has basically figured it out. After all the Genshin impacts, the Honkai impacts, the Honkai Star Rails, the Wuthering Waves, and all that stuff. 1 second here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I feel like the mobile space has already been figured out by a few developers, a few publishers, studios, and they're already like monopolizing that kind of crowd already. And so if you're this new thing, which is honestly from a niche thing, which is Kingdom Hearts, it's gonna be difficult to just get in there and make a long-sustaining project out of it, long-sustaining game, especially knowing that your previous mobile games that you released, Union Cross and Dark Road, didn't really pan out the way you wanted it to. Instead, we were left with this app where we just watch the cutscenes or something like that, and watch the movies, So I think it's just better overall to just not make any more of these mobile games. Square Enix, just stop. Instead, make some sort of Genshin Impact or something. God damn it. Okay. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. Sad to see you go. You had a really cool Bloodborne concept art too. Bloodborne-esque concept art. But please, just make Kingdom Hearts 4 good. Please. Please. It's so hard to be a Kingdom Hearts fan. So yeah, as I was saying, it's so hard to be a Kingdom Hearts fan because game after game, it's always just a disappointment. I'm not even talking about disappointment in terms of like game quality and the story and stuff like that. Every Kingdom Hearts game that was released, I thoroughly enjoyed because I'm such a fan. I'm super biased. I'm super biased now, but I just enjoy everything, even Kingdom Hearts 3 and all that stuff. But it's always so disappointing that it seems like Kingdom Hearts always gets a short end of the stick. Kingdom Hearts always gets development problems, development issues, development hell, right? It's always from the Kingdom Hearts team that they take people from to support other teams making their games. And for some reason, they just can't lock in. Why can't anybody just wrangle this team in and have them lock in and complete a game in a reasonable amount of time that's good, right? Kind of like what CBU3 did. CBU3 from Naoki Yoshida, right? They just straight up made Final Fantasy 16 with, as far as we know, no problems at all. No change in directors, no change in teams, no teams being allocated to other projects. It's just from straight beginning to end, smooth development. They had a vision, they executed upon it, they did it. Even Final Fantasy 7 Remake, why are they so locked in for that? And for some reason, the Kingdom Hearts team just can't. So yeah, unfortunate. But the next day, they released some Kingdom Hearts 4 pictures, some images that look really cool. But, it's nothing more than just a little thing to appease people like me. And I have a feeling that although these screenshots look good, I have a feeling that Kingdom Hearts 4 is still very early into development. I don't know why. I feel like these screenshots are pretty much very much staged, and they don't really mean anything. It doesn't mean like Kingdom Hearts 4 is soon. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen next year. The very pessimistic mind in me, the pessimistic thing in me is saying, you know what? I think I've already kind of accepted that Kingdom Hearts 4 is coming out after FF7 Remake Part 3. I think I've accepted that now. In my mind, I thought Kingdom Hearts 4 was going to be the interstitial between Remake Part 2 and Remake Part 3. But now that this is happening, I feel like it's just going to be it's going to have the same timeline as 3. I don't know. I really thought that after the debacle that was Kingdom Hearts 3, they would never do that again, but it seems like they're doing it again. Yep. They're doing it again. They can't just lock in. I hate it. But also, I just can't let go. I love Kingdom Hearts. And I would just love to play Kingdom Hearts 4 and see if they really plan on... My mind is like, here is where my mind goes. If you just really cannot lock in, right? If you just can't... If every Kingdom Hearts game is just going to be a problem with development, just stop, right? Make Kingdom Hearts 4. Make it as good as it can be. Give it a nice, closed-ended ending. And just call it there. I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan, but I wouldn't fault Tetsuya Nomura and the Kingdom Hearts team to just call it there. Because this franchise is blurst. Blurst AF. And honestly, just end it. At least if you end it, your fans wouldn't be thinking every day about, oh no, when is Kingdom Hearts 4 news going to come out? Just end it. Do it. I care, but, just end it. All right. But that's it for the Kingdom Hearts news, Kingdom Hearts 4 and Kingdom Hearts Missing Link news. The next article that we have here is the 100 Line creator clarifies odds of PS5 port are very slim as studio is on the brink of bankruptcy. This is from Push Square. So yeah, apparently Kazutaka Kodaka has poured ice cold water and any possibility of a PS5 port. While hopes were ignited over the weekend when 2Kyo co-founder appeared to indicate his team is ready to work on a PlayStation conversion, he's since clarified that was only referring to multilingual support. As for the prospect of other platforms, well, they're exceptionally low, it seems. So they said on Blue Sky, I'm not talking about porting to other platforms. I'm referring to multilingual support. As for porting to other platforms, I've mentioned it many times before, so I didn't think it needed repeating. But just to be clear, there are no plans for it, and the chances are very slim. And I think the reason they cited here was that they basically almost went bankrupt making 100 Line. So they don't have funds anymore to do a console conversion, PS5 conversion. And so I got really interested in this because Tokyo Games is owned by, if I remember correctly, Aniplex. Right? Aniplex is now minority. Sony has like the most minority shares in it, so to speak. And wait, Aniplex. Well, I'm confused here. That's Kadokawa. Aniplex is under Sony. Yes, Aniplex is a subsidiary of Sony. I was thinking Kadokawa. But Aniplex subsidiary, it's Sony. Come on. Right? Tokyo Games, almost bankrupt. But I think it's a bit embarrassing, so to speak, that this company that is under you didn't release their game on your platform, which, by the way, is Sony's most profitable branch. The PlayStation is Sony's number one profit making thing. It's their biggest thing. I think it's a bit embarrassing, right? To have a company under them not release their game on PlayStation. I don't know what's going on there, but come on, Sony, just figure it out. Put some money into it. Or maybe this is their way to like kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge Sony to be like, excuse me, Sony-sama, can you please give us money? Maybe. But yeah, I think it's embarrassing. I hope this releases on PS5. But out of curiosity, I checked for Danganronpa sales, right? Because initially I thought, well, it's so weird that you release this game on PC and Switch only, right? Because in my mind, I was like, you could have just skipped PC and put it on PS5 and Switch. And then I checked the Danganronpa sales numbers, and apparently Danganronpa sold more on PC. Interesting. Very interesting. I think the sales for Danganronpa were like PC, then PlayStation consoles, which includes PS Vita and stuff like that. And then PC, PlayStation, and then wait, I think that's it. Do they have Danganronpa on Switch? Oh, I think that's it. Wait, confused. Yeah, that's it. So I was like, interesting. But you know what? The Switch is out. Switch is like the most selling thing ever. It's gonna be the most sold thing ever. And Switch really seems like the best place for it in lieu of the PS Vita, PSP. So it makes sense now that I think about it. But still, no PlayStation version. Come on. You can skip the Xbox version. Sure, no one on the Xbox is gonna play this game. But PlayStation? Come on. 100 Line. Lock in. Do it. Contact your boss. Quite literally, your boss. Give them an email. Boss, can you please fund the PlayStation version of this game? Because this game that you funded in a way, right, is not on your platform, boss. Come on. Okay. But that's it for 100 Line. Just a small little article. I just found it really interesting that that's happening. But yeah. Okay. And for our last article for RPG News, and the last article of this episode, is Trails in the Sky superb looking PS5 remake gets September release date. Look out, Trails Beyond the Horizon. So Trails in the Sky first chapter now has a confirmed release date, launching on the 19th of September. And I played the original Trails in the Sky, and it's really good. But this game looks really good. The 3D treatment that they did is more than I expected. And I hope that they can find a new audience and they can build on their existing audience with this game. Because Trails in the Sky is noted to be the best place to start if you want to get in Trails. So I hope that anyone who is even remotely interested in Trails could get this game. And that's a strategy, right? If you could get into this game, you could potentially get into the rest of the series. But of course, this needs to be good first. While the story and concept of the first game is good, I hope it translates to 3D. And I hope the 3D gameplay elements that they have are good as well. So Trails is doing great. But I can see their need to expand more. I think it's kind of like the same situation with Atelier Yumiya, where Trails is slowly becoming a bigger entity in the JRPG like space. But we'll see. Trails in the Sky. I'm gonna play this for sure. I have completely forgotten the story of the first game, so it's time to go back. And in 3D. It's just gonna hurt though to go from this and then play the second game and go back to 2D. But you know, whatever. I'll take whatever. It looks really good. Trails in the Sky, releasing September 19. Can't wait. Thank you, thank you. And that's it for the news. And now we go to what I'm playing, and there's only one game that I have been playing religiously, aside from Death Stranding. Death Stranding, I've almost finished. I'm at the very last chapter, and I would rather talk about Death Stranding a bit more in depth after the end of that chapter. But for now, I'm going to be talking about Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. I am currently a few hours into Act 1. I think maybe 5 hours into... 5 hours after Act 1. So I'm pretty fresh off whatever happened at the end of Act 1, which is pretty cool. I don't really want to spoil anything. Not going to do any spoilers here. All I really want to talk about here is my enjoyment of the game, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And this game has been garnering a lot of success. I think they already surpassed 2 million sales milestone. Their 2 million sales milestone, and that's with Game Pass, right? That's what's crazy, is that Game Pass numbers aren't even included there, so they already sold 2 million like premium sales of it, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. For especially a game that no one really knows, from first game from Sandfall Interactive, I believe. First game from these developers specifically. A title no one knows about until now. It's not like it's a Final Fantasy. It's not like it's a Dragon Quest or something like that. And it's an RPG with a turn-based system from a French developer. So that's kind of crazy. And all of the details about the creation of its studio has been talked about many times over. French studio. Few people from Ubisoft broke away and gathered a bunch of junior developers, people who've never even worked on anything before, like any big thing before, and just made a nice team of 30-ish people and made the best game that they could, which turns out to be probably, quite clearly, a Game of the Year contender. And I have to say, from my around 20-ish hours of playing it already, I'm playing it on the hardest difficulty, and I'm also being a bit more completionist with my run. Now, 20 hours for Act 1, I don't know if that's standard. I feel like people are beating it within 30 hours, beating the whole game. And I think I just finished Act 1 in 20 hours, so I'm probably going at it very slowly, slower than most, maybe. But all I have to say here is it deserves all the praise that it's gotten. And it got so much praise, by the way, that the President of France praises Clair Obscur Expedition 33 for showing French audacity. Emmanuel Macron praised the game's milestone of 1 million copies. So, the game's official Instagram page posted a bilingual message on Thursday thanking players and referring to the game's French heritage. Quelle semaine de folie. I'm not going to say it. So, it's been 7 days since we launched Clair Obscur. What a pleasure it's been to see players from all over the world experiencing the game. We are proud to share this adventure with you. Then Macron replied to the post from his own official Instagram account, praising the studio for hitting the 1 million sales milestone so quickly. 1 million copies sold and currently one of the highest rated games in history. And yes, it's French. Congratulations to Sandfall Interactive and all the creatives of Expedition 33. You are a shining example of French audacity and creativity. Now, I'm curious, what are popular French video games? Games made in French or France. Let's see. I got a list here from Reddit. A Plague Tale, Innocence. Who else? What are the other big French games? No, Life is Strange. Deathloop and Dishonored are also French games. Wow. Prey, Vampire, Detroit Become Human. Oh, right. Friggin' Quantic Dream is French. Humankind, Alien Space, Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, Plague Tale, Greedfall, and also a bunch of Ubisoft games. So there are a bunch of French-made games. Dead Cells is also a French game. Damn. Wow. France actually has a really vibrant like gaming developer culture. Because these games, although they didn't light the world on fire, they're very popular, right? But only one game amongst them all really lit the world on fire, in a way. And that's Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which is pretty cool to see that they got recognition from the friggin' president of France. And reminds me of the time when Witcher got the same attention from, I guess, president of Poland, where they were recognized for being a cool representative of Polish culture and stuff like that for their work with Witcher 3, I believe. So it's cool to see, and it's another thing, it's another point in my belief that games are meant to be made globally, right? Games are not just meant to be made like in America or Japan. Especially now, these days, we're seeing so many games made in different parts where games weren't usually made before. At least AAA console games, so to speak. South Korea, right? We're also getting stuff from China. There's also stuff from the Middle East, I think, India as well, with different hero projects from Sony, PlayStation. It's cool to see that more and more countries are getting the technology, the know-how, and the talent to develop games with a very specific lens that they look through, which is, the lens of the country that they grew up in, of the kind of life experiences they had, and and whatever artistic and cultural things they can bring to the table to put into their games. So that's very interesting, and it makes for a more vibrant game catalog, which is great. And playing this game really makes me feel like, damn, this is very French. The people look French, at least my idea of French. The music sometimes feels very French. And it gives me an appreciation for more unique views into game making and stories, right? Because I feel like a big chunk of the gaming industry has been centered on America and Japan, that now we're seeing more and more games from elsewhere. And it's so interesting. And it's so exciting to play these games. Clair Obscur, to be put simply, is a turn-based RPG that's very JRPG inspired, but doesn't have the baggage of JRPGs. In fact, it's just an RPG, right? Well, let's not call it a JRPG, but it's very JRPG inspired in terms of its, it being a turn-based game and its structure. But it brings into the fold a bunch of more modern Souls-like mechanics. I hate saying Souls-like, but I think the developer director is a big fan of Sekiro or something like that. And so it makes sense that they are very into this whole mechanics of parrying and perfect dodging, perfect blocking, perfect parrying, right? Encounters and stuff like that. So it marries those two to create a very interesting and very compelling, kind of like a real-time turn-based game. That's kind of what I'm trying to get here as a description for it. It's a real-time turn-based game, meaning, sure, it's turn-based. You're choosing from a menu, but you have to react also in real time as to what's happening on the screen. Enemies will attack you. You need to decide whether you parry, you'll dodge, or jump, or you'll do a big counter, right? And it's so good. Like, I can't even overhype it enough. This game deserves all the hype it got. This game deserves all those 2 million sales it got. This game deserves all of the new eyes it got from people who don't typically play JRPGs. It's just that good. And I think before this, I was really looking for a catch. Like, what is the catch here? Why? The game looks good. It plays good. It sounds good. Its actors are big ass voice actors. They even got Charlie Cox, who's Daredevil, right? Got Ben Starr, got Jennifer English, all the big names that you've seen in recent games, you know. Ben Starr from Final Fantasy 16, who's Clive Rosfield, FF16. Jennifer English, who's Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3. Then you got Charlie Cox into the mix as well. And then a bunch of other supporting cast that's really good too. You got motion capture. You got CG cutscenes. You got great graphics. What's the catch? Surely the story's the catch. But no. The story might actually be the best thing aside from the gameplay in this game. So there really isn't a catch. It's just all good. I guess the catch is that even though it's a good game, it doesn't feel like a super expensive game, so to speak, right? If that's a catch, I don't think that's a catch, honestly. I think they're just games that have different budget levels. For example, when you're playing like Last of Us, right? Last of Us, even Uncharted, you're playing, what's another big expensive game? Final Fantasy 16, right? Even just the simple experience of running around the world, right? For stuff like The Last of Us, you get like different running cycles depending on what surface you're stepping on, whether you're next to a corner of a building, whether you're crouching, if you're next to some certain elements in the world, your run cycle, walk cycle changes dynamically and everything. And that's a mark of things being very expensive and high production values. But for Expedition 33, as far as I can tell, there's just only one running animation and the jump looks freaking weird. Right? And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be high quality. The jump doesn't have to be super high quality. It doesn't have to look extremely realistic. It just has to work. And so the exploration of the world feels very pared down. The exploration of the world feels more like Plague Tale. Right? It feels like a very old game. It feels like an old game when you're exploring the world. You know, very linear corridors, one run cycle animation. You're going left, right, opening chests. You're jumping to go up to ledges and stuff like that. And there's really nothing interesting in terms of exploration aside from, you know, the actual things that you see, which is more, I think, a function of the art style, art direction, and story, lore, stuff like that. But aside from that, everything here just feels good. And everything here feels like it's a game made by a very passionate team that maybe look at themselves as the underdogs and just want to make the best product that they can with not really as few people as they can, with few people. You know, they're not like a studio of 1,000 people and really push that budget to its limit. Whatever budget they got. And it panned out for them. Plus the fact that this game released for $50. So this game, I would buy without a doubt, without even blinking an eye, at $70. It's just that good. But they price it at $50 because that's what they think would be a good price point to make people buy the game. And yes, I feel like they got a lot more people buying the game, a lot more eyes buying the game because it's priced $50. And also, it's just another thing where, yes, you should experiment with your pricing. You should not always just do $70 just because. You can do $40, you can do $50. And it's now to me, what it feels like, if I'm looking for a game that's like 20 to 30 hours long, that's still of good quality, right? Look at the $50 price range. But if you really want the tippy top, you look at the $70 price range. However, with a $70 price range now, you also run into the risk of people just pricing their games at $70, even if it doesn't deserve to be $70. But you know, whatever, right? So the gameplay is snappy. That's what's the best thing about it. It's very snappy. There's a lot of room for creativity with your character builds and your strategies. Each character is very interesting. story-wise, gameplay-wise, right? The main character's whole kit is based on you doing perfect dodges and perfect blocks and everything. It rewards you a lot by doing that. It rewards you by mastering the gameplay, the real-time gameplay of it. And his whole thing is if you get a bunch of perfect ratings on your blocks and dodges, his attacks become super strong, or his attacks gain different effects based on how perfect you've been, right? There's this other character whose whole thing is different stances. Like there's a stance that makes you get 50% less damage. There's a stance that gives you 50% more damage, but you get hurt by 50% more as well. There's another stance that gives you 200% damage. And there are abilities that rely on you using these stances, which is pretty cool. There's a character that uses freaking tarot cards, like, I don't know, moon and sun cards, and you need to apply cards to the enemy. It's like Gambit. Very nice. There's this other character who has a bunch of magic attacks, and by doing magic attacks, you gain like orbs of magic, and you can expend these orbs of magic to get different effects on your abilities. It's so in depth. It's not just attack. You have fire magic, you have ice magic, you have lightning magic. You have steel, you have items. And that's why I feel like this argument for Final Fantasy being a turn-based game and remaining a turn-based game is kind of difficult, because I don't think personally Final Fantasy has been at the forefront of having extremely good turn-based gameplay at all. Right? Sure, it was riveting still to play it. Right? Sure, the experience of playing it is really good. But now that I look at games like, Expedition 33, like Persona, these games have much more detailed and much better turn-based systems and mechanics than Final Fantasy. Whereas for Final Fantasy, all I can remember from Final Fantasy's turn-based mechanics is that when you reach a boss, they're just immune to everything anyway. Right? They're immune to your poisons, they're immune to your fire magic, your ice, elemental magic, and you just chip away at them with your skills, and it's not super interesting. Sure, you get cool stuff like magic, like limit breaks, like steel, like blue magic and stuff like that. But at the forefront of turn-based gameplay is definitely not Final Fantasy. I'd argue that Final Fantasy has really this chance to make the 7 Rebirth system its signature system if it wants to. I think that's a strength that they can. That's a thing that they can specifically pursue, because they have the budget production value of Square Enix. That's why they can do that. That a bunch of other JRPG developers just don't have. Right? They can't make super cool looking action games plus turn-based like Final Fantasy. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm not trying to put down all the other games in favor of Clair Obscur, but I just really like Clair Obscur's implementation of a turn-based system. If there's anything I have to say that feels a bit weird, is that I feel like the real-time elements of Clair Obscur kind of overshadow the turn-based elements of it. It feels to me sometimes that as long as you do perfect dodges and perfect blocks, you can just get through the game. And I don't know if I could call that balanced. Sure, there's a big risk in doing a perfect block. But there's also this thing where but the enemies don't have that many attacks for you to be confused about, oh crap, what's the timing of this attack here? Now, if the enemies had like 10, 20 different attack patterns, I think that'd be better and would really bring down the efficacy of the real-time aspects of it. But currently, a lot of enemies just have 2 attack patterns. And once you've mastered them, sometimes you don't even need to press attack. Sometimes you just have to block them and you're done with the fight. Or sometimes there's this enemy that has very intricate, like a boss enemy, very intricate mechanics and stuff like that. But sometimes the block mechanics, the parry mechanics and stuff like that just kind of trivialize them. So I don't know what to feel about that. I feel like there's a big difference in the ratio of the efficacy of the real-time elements versus the turn-based strategy elements of it. But that's pretty much the only thing I can talk bad about it. But that's not really bad, but a little criticism that I feel like is something that isn't talked about. But also, I'm also only on Act 1, like 5 hours after Act 1. So who knows what happens in the future? Maybe this is all just, you know how everything is just basically easy throughout the whole game, and then suddenly at the end, that's when you need to lock in and master everything. So, yeah. But Clair Obscur Expedition 33, the hype is real, enjoying it. Would love to get my full thoughts next episode for sure. But yeah, I think that's it for Expedition 33. And I think that's also it for this episode of Triangle to Win. This turned out to be a longer episode than I expected. Although I did expect this to be longer than the previous one, because the articles these past 2 weeks have been very interesting. But yeah, good to know that we got another beefy episode. And this is just me speaking on my own as a solo host in this podcast. Imagine if I get someone else. But I haven't really been scouting for people. I really haven't been looking for some. I've been enjoying the pace of just doing this on my own. So hope you guys are enjoying it too. I'm imagining what it feel like to just listen to just one guy talk for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Probably weird. And grating, maybe. But yeah, that's it for me. I think I'm just going to go ahead and try and clip some moments from previous episodes and try to get some shorts up as soon as I can. And aside from that, I think I'm just going to go ahead and eat my lunch. It's pretty late for lunch though. But, what's for lunch? I don't know. What else? What else am I going to do? I've been setting up my local network here at home because I noticed that I've been getting problems with remote play recently because I'm super far from my PC, so I need to rely on mesh networking and stuff like that. But I think I'm close. I'm close to getting the same performance I had in my previous house, where I was just like 1 meter away from my PC at all times. So I'll probably do more testing for that. But aside from that, that's it. Maybe look for a new chair that's more expensive. All right. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for listening. And let's see each other on the next episode in 2 weeks. Hopefully I don't miss another week. Goodbye.